Rahul, I'd like to come to you. You're, of course, there in the studio. You've been tracking everything that the Finance Minister has been saying. Give us a broad outlook of it and also do focus a little bit on the NPS.
Sure. The budget in itself was very similar to the interim budget, obviously with a few more changes and some announcements. It's like tinkering on the edges at best, to be honest. Some focus on jobs and skilling and education. That was very, very clear from the amount of time she spent of her speech on these schemes. Broadly, she looked at every wish list that we have been looking at from the budget point of view. I think perhaps the tax changes or reforms that were expected, that is not met with this budget. Stock markets are down. They've actually crashed, with the Sensex down below 80,000. That's a telling sign from the capital gains tax changes that were not met, or the expectations were not met on that front. On the national pension scheme specifically, one of the encouraging signs is where parents can actually open an NPS account for their children. It's called NPS Vatsala. I think it's a good concept. You can put money and secure their future. Once the children turn 18, it'll be regularized into a formal NPS account. That's a good announcement from the Finance Minister. Overall, I think it is a little disappointing in terms of taxation, in terms of what gets cheaper or costlier. Honestly, a lot of duty cuts were announced, but they were for items like phones, gold, silver. But on broad price rise in the country for food, she did announce a lot of hubs to be included to grow vegetables, which will help probably stem the surge in vegetable prices. But overall, I think there is still a lot of disappointment from markets, from people alike at this point.
Rahul, now again, the markets have been in the red. And you did touch upon it briefly earlier. Of course, a lot has to do with the long-term gains, which have been the tax, which has been increased from 10%. It's now 12.5%. There is a lot, initial outrage. I won't say outrage is a strong word to use, but initial, thoughts on that from you, because there is a lot that I'm already catching on the internet at the moment that, why was this done and why are the markets suddenly on the red? What would perhaps be, in your opinion, the thought process behind that increase?
For the budget, if you had looked at, markets had hit record highs multiple times. In fact, at one point, out of 27 sessions, 25 sessions, Nifty had hit some kind of a record almost every other day. Now, the positioning was for some kind of rationalization in capital gains tax, the definition of long-term capital gains, the definition of short-term capital gains, and the increase in the long-term capital gains is something that's weighing on the markets. The knee-jerk reaction obviously is very clear. Markets have crashed. We'll have to wait and see what the reactions are going to be going ahead. To be honest, at this point, it is a disappointment for investors specifically because they're going to be paying a higher charge. So, yeah, that's clear why the reaction after positioning themselves to a certain expectation from the budget.
Actually, when, all through the build-up, we had the economic survey, even pre-budget, we were talking about, and the Prime Minister's statement was also on the same lines that, this is going to be a budget scale, it's going to be dictating the next, of course, term for the government, and it's also a roadmap to Viksit Bharat. Do you see that at the end of this budget address?
I think on those lines, on growth policies, there have been a lot of things which have been carried forward. For example, the capital expenditure increase is very clear. Infrastructure focus is still there. Those have continued from the plan that they've put in place over the last few years. Specifically on fiscal discipline, I think that's encouraging because in the interim budget, they had looked at 5.1% of GDP as the target for this year. and below 4.5% in the following year.
Rahul,
but they brought that down, so
yes,
it's very interesting at this point.
All right, Rahul. So we'll come back to you. Of course, that was Rahul Karunakar, our business editor, right here in the studio. I'd like to now just cut across to Siddhant Sibbal. Of course, you've been, Siddhant, outside the parliament since the morning. Your biggest takeaways, and I'd also like you to weigh in on the two states which have been in the limelight ever since this budget announcement, Andhra Pradesh and, you know it, Bihar.
Well, yes, we are hoping to get more political reactions. In fact, where I am standing, I can see political leaders now coming in. If my camera person can a little bit pan and show the situation just in front of the parliament, where, of course, the reporters are eagerly waiting for the politicians to arrive and give reactions. This is expected as well. This is, of course, the first budget of the new government. So there is a lot of excitement regarding this entire budget. We will be, of course, crunching the numbers in a short while from now, but I've been able to, from the short period from the budget announcement coming to an end till now, able to go through the announcements which India has made for the countries in the region. Significantly and on expected lines, India has continued to give a lion's share of its international support, financial support to Bhutan, and to Afghanistan there has been an increase of almost 20 crores, that is 200 crore rupees that was allocated last year. This time it has been increased to 220 crores, it looks like, but we will have to go through more numbers which are now pouring in. But all in all, the big takeaway from the budget announcement is the Indian government's focus on creation of jobs. In fact, the Indian Finance Minister started her speech by making the announcement that the focus will be on new schemes that creates jobs but also help in skill development. That remains the big story from the budget. The Indian Finance Minister, of course, will be addressing a press conference at 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time, where she will be detailing about her budget statement. We will, of course, shortly go through the defense announcements as well, because just a short while ago, the documents have been put on the website. This is a paperless budget. India has been having a paperless budget for last 3 years, and the tradition continues, of course. But all in all, the other key announcement remains on the tax slabs. The markets have reacted, as was pointed out by Rahul. But all in all, this is a budget where the focus of the government also remains on its coalition partners, both from Bihar and Andhra Pradesh, where there were several announcements for the states, including for Bihar when it comes to flood management, or of course new projects in the state. That remains the key focus. That was expected as well, given that's part of the coalition politics.
As we wait for more political reactions to come in, stay with us. We'll come back to you. As of now, I'd like to shift to Mumbai, where, of course, Disha Shah, who's our correspondent there in Mumbai, she was outside the Bombay Stock Exchange earlier.